Hi there, my name is Grace. I am in the Intro to Sociology class, and this is my Module 3 video assignment. A little bit about myself before I get started. I am currently an EMT working in an emergency department. I am in the pre-nursing program. I'm also a bit of a film and TV buff, so try and see how many references you can tag in my assignment today. So first things first, we're going to explain why life is like a stage, according to Erving Goffman and dramaturgy. Hope I'm saying that correctly. So this man, Erving Goffman, has a theory that life is like a box of chocolates. No, just kidding. Life is like a stage, like a performance. We have different versions of ourselves that appear depending on whom we are with. Erving Goffman is credited as one of the chief proponents who compared the state of humanity to an entire theater production. In Goffman's perspective of dramaturgy, we all play different parts in our lives. While I'm at work, I'm being a professional. I'm an EMT. I'm a healthcare provider and a patient advocate. One could say I'm master of my domain. I am, actually. I'm not pretending to be someone else. I'm just playing a different role of myself. When I'm at home, I'm also master of my domain. I'm in my own space. I don't have to follow any certain role. That can change depending on whom I'm with. Are my parents in town? Is my partner's family in town? Do I need to change what I'm wearing, what I'm listening to, how I speak, depending on whom I'm with? Goffman created a term called sign vehicles. These are the tools that we use to manipulate how we appear based on the people who are around us. Sign vehicles are like social settings, our appearances, and our manner of interacting. When I'm at work, I have one appearance, versus when I'm at home, I have a different one. I would never clock into my job at the hospital wearing sweatpants and house shoes. Similarly, when I'm at home or socializing on my days off, I would never show up wearing scrubs and my work boots. Ew. Work Grace has her own appearance and tropes that are different from at-home Grace. When I'm at work, I want people to view me as a reliable caregiver, someone respectable who is confident in her practice. When I'm at home or out and about with friends, I want people to see me as carefree, or as one adult in my life once called me, unapologetic. I can let my colorful personality out in the open more so than I would while I'm on the clock. In the next section, we're going to apply the social construction of reality to my own life. So what is a social construct? Mona Lisa Vito once said that is a trick question. I mean, technically, everything is a social construct. We say that the sky is blue because one day someone decided that that's what we'll call it. They gave the word blue to the color of the sky. Everyone else agreed, and that became our definition of the color blue. How would you describe the color blue if you couldn't use that word? We would have to come up with a different word with the same meaning, and society would adopt that and adapt to the new word for the color blue. William and Dorothy Thomas, two sociologists from the 1920s, stated in one theorem that if men define situations as real, they are real in their consequences. That's a quote. So much of our reality is based on what one person one day decided what it was. A perfect example in the current events and the current climate is the argument of when life begins. Conception, birth, somewhere in between. Depending on people's backgrounds, culture, socioeconomic status, people's answers may differ. Even though, let's say, Roe may not think that life begins at the same point that Wade does, whatever the point of life is for them is a solid reality to each of them. For example, under Jewish law, life does not begin at conception. The Talmud claims that the fetus is mere water for the first 40 days of gestation. After those 40 days, the fetus is then considered a physical part of the mother's body, not an independent life with individual rights necessarily. Someone who lives by these beliefs has their own foundation of when life begins. That is their true meaning of life. That is a true belief that they have. If we were to hook up someone with these beliefs to a polygraph machine, and also hook up someone who, say, believes that life begins at conception to a polygraph machine and ask them these questions, they would both register as telling the truth, because this is each of their true truths and foundations. So what holds society together? This is so broad that even a sociologist won't give you one single answer. There's the age-old saying and teaching that humans are social creatures and therefore cannot survive or thrive without a society. Jerry Seinfeld is arguably known for his show by the same name, Seinfeld. He helped write the show along with Larry David and is jokingly referred to as the show about nothing. I stated in the last module's discussion that I was definitely heavily influenced by media and film and television when I was growing up, and Seinfeld was definitely a big one. It would be on TV in the evenings while we ate dinner, it would be quoted by my family as a joke, and we would always find a place to say things like, "You want to be my latex salesman?" So what does Seinfeld have to do with the question about what holds society together? George Costanza once said, nothing. In 2015, a psychology professor at the Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, again, hope I pronounced that correctly, built an entire curriculum around having students watch Seinfeld twice a week. He would have his students evaluate and diagnose the characters of the show with different personality traits and psychological dysfunctions. The show is about nothing, just following a small group of friends through life in New York City in the 90s. You know, like, I'll be there for you. No, just kidding. A different group of friends. Sociology textbooks have used Seinfeld as an example numerous times, and following the principle of Seinfeld, one could argue that absolutely nothing holds society together. It is constant chaos. On another note, Emil Durkheim, hope I pronounced that correctly, was considered one of the forefathers of sociology, right up there with Marx and Weber. One of his ideas was that society itself, the idea of humanity as a whole, is what held us all together. As a whole, we all have our different beliefs, different norms, different moral values, and like a jigsaw puzzle, these all intertwine and create a collective consciousness, create society. According to Durkheim, this collective consciousness is the glue that holds us all together. The collective consciousness explained the existence of society because not only does it produce a society, it sustains society. Durkheim claimed that society is a social product created by the acts of individuals. Another movie that I think supports this idea is The Time Machine from 1960. This movie is based on the famous H.G. Wells novel about a scientist who cracked the code to time travel. Was H.G. Wells a sociologist? No, not necessarily, but if we look at the plot of his book and the classic rendition from 1960 starring Rod Taylor, we can see a clear vision that what holds society together can change with time. In the 1960 rendition, our main character is named H. George Wells, an obvious nod towards H.G. Wells himself. When Wells, in the movie, successfully manages to travel forward in time, he sees society changing. There's a scene where he sits in his time machine and flashes forward from the early 20th century to the 20s, to the 30s, to the 40s. And for some of this, his time machine is positioned in front of a clothing store, and he's watching the mannequins change each decade, watching those societal norms change, watching what is holding society together to look normal change over the years. I think that's a really good illustration of, yeah, we can change, but as a society, we hold ourselves together. We're self-sustaining. In H.G. Wells' novella, our main character blasts into the future, into the 803rd century. In this far future, we have, instead of different people and different cultures, we have basically two main classes of living beings. This appears to be an after effect of a worldwide war, like bigger than the two world wars. We are left with the Eloi and the Warlocks. The Eloi appear to be humans. Not just humanesque, they are human beings, but they don't speak. They are mostly nonverbal. They appear to be living in a peaceful life without conflict among themselves. Picture how society is illustrated with the nymphs in Greek mythology. Just peace, love, drinking, having a good time. The warlocks are the more brutalistic creatures that live underground and resurface randomly to abduct the Eloi for what is assumed to be their food. This is the only constant conflict in the 803rd century world. This is what holds the balance of reality. In the time machine, the Eloi don't question it when the warlocks surface to come abduct people. You'll see in scenes of the movie, the warlocks surface, show up, and will drag people. If they grab an Eloi, the Eloi will scream because they're scared for their lives, but the rest of the community of Eloi just kind of shrug it off and are like, this is the norm, this is what happens. Sucks to be you, glad it's not me, but I'm not upset, I'm not scared, I'm not concerned that my friend is being dragged underground because this is the norm, this is what we see every day. In the 20th century, we have war, class conflict, and different societal roles to hold order and balance. In the 803rd century, the Eloi and the warlocks are their balance. In the far future, we still see that society itself remains to be held together by these roles, even though they have shifted. So, in conclusion, society itself holds itself together like a jigsaw puzzle. Thank you very much. I will attach my works cited.